So we'll take nutritional wellness. If you have a neuroassociation that being on a diet is associated with restriction and lack, and I'm always hungry, and salads are just like I don't even want a salad, but I have to eat this, you're never going to successfully have a good relationship with food because you have that neuroassociation. Versus if you shift your neuroassociation and you focus on all the things you get to eat, all the things you choose to eat, because what you're doing is you're focusing on all the things you can't eat, right? So often you feel deprived. When you focus on all the things you can eat, you're like, oh, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, melon, cantaloupe, all these things. When you just look at fruits, right? There's thousands of things you could choose to eat and you get to eat that are going to nourish your body. But yet we're focusing on, oh, I can't have that pizza.
Welcome to the Rock Your Midlife podcast, your transformative sanctuary designed to guide you through self-discovery and provide the tools you need to find your purpose and navigate life authentically. Whether you want to optimize your health, boost your happiness, or deepen your self-love, this podcast is your ultimate toolkit. Welcome to Rock Your Midlife. I'm Dr. Ellen, the Midlife Whisperer, and we have such an important show for you today. If you are struggling with your mental health, you are dealing with menopausal issues like brain fog, maybe even experiencing a little bit of depression or moodiness, your energy is low, and you have tried umpteen things from crazy diets, supplementation, all kinds of things to try to feel better, this show is for you. You're going to learn how to transform the power of your brain to achieve holistic wellness. And that's actually a thing. There's something out there called neuroplasticity, which is the fact that you can actually change the structure of your brain. You can do this in lots of ways, through diet, through movement, through how you think. And you can change the structure of your brain, and that's going to help you to feel better, have more energy, and really knock your midlife out of the park. You're going to learn practical strategies that can help you transform your overall well-being by focusing on how brain health integrates with the rest of your body. My guest is the amazing Anna Marie Frank. She is a doctor of naturopathy. She's a naturopath, and she is amazing. She has actually done work and training at the Gerson Institute. She has worked at the Integrative Nutrition Institute, Mind Valley, Natural Wellness Institute, and the Wellness Council of America. And she actually healed her brain after years of depression and challenges with dyslexia and ADD. And she is the creator and owner of Happy Whole You. I absolutely love that. It's a brain health focused wellness center in Bakersfield, California. And she is the formulator of a brain nutraceutical line. So supplements that really will help improve your brain health and make you feel better. And she is also the author of a self-improvement book, Stop Bullying Yourself, A Guide to Greater Health, Wealth, Happiness, and Success. Welcome to Rock Your Midlife, Dr. Anna Marie. So good to have you here.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Such an important topic. And I know I transformed my own brain, and it was really, for me, was starting mindful self-compassion and starting meditation and being more present and learning to talk to myself differently. I know I suffered with clinical depression and probably a little bit of ADHD or ADD. Tell us a little bit about your story and about how you transformed your physical and mental well-being.
Yeah, I mean, I struggled with my mental health since I was in high school, but back then I wouldn't have said I was depressed. I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I just know I didn't feel good inside. And that followed me until college. I thought, oh, well, once I graduate, I'll go to college, then my life will improve, right? And then you go to college and then you're like, oh, well, once I get my first job, then my life will improve. And it was like I kept chasing the carrot, and my mental health just continued to go down and down. I was in my early 20s. I had moved across the country for my first job, and you could check all the boxes. My career was taking off. I was finally making money, not in that college debt. I was exercising, I was eating well, but I still was severely depressed. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to go to a doctor because I have health insurance now, right? They're going to fix me. And so I went to this doctor and spent a very short period of time with him. And he put me on 3 mind-altering medications. I was about 22, 23 years old. And I proceeded to take them. and I continued to get worse and worse and worse. I would go back and be like, oh, these aren't working. And then he would give me something else. And I went down this rabbit hole, and it came to a point where I showed up for an appointment to tell him again my medicine wasn't working. And there was something that happened in that office that day, and it ultimately helped shift my perspective. And I had this little voice, this little light inside of me that said, you are the only person that can make yourself happy. And so I remember I stepped out of the office that day and I looked up, and the sky was blue for the first time. The trees were green for the first time. Like, I literally started to see the world a different way, because I was realizing I was going outside of myself to try to fix
Mm,
myself when it was really within me the whole time. And so that was like the jumping off point of starting to research and discover natural, healthy ways to transform your biology. Things I didn't even know about. Yeah, I know exercise, of course. Yes. Oh, eat healthy. Yes, of course. But no one ever talked to me about my mind. And I was an athlete, so I knew, you know, play hard, practice hard, win, win, win. But I was never taught to be in collaboration over competition. I was always taught be the best or you're nothing.
mm.
So I think that also that mentality was showing up in my life in so many ways. And so, yeah, it was at that point that, I went down the rabbit hole of holistic health, natural health, and I probably spent about from 22, 23 to about 33 years old when I wrote my first book, um, really working on myself and trying to figure out how the heck do we get this head on straight? you
Yeah,
know?
powerful stuff. And it is really true. The world teaches us that changing things on the outside, so getting a different job, making more money,
Mhm.
getting a new car, being with the right partner, having the right house, all of this extrinsic motivational stuff outside of us, we do these things, then we'll be happy. And I'm hearing from you, and I think that's my experience too, is happiness is an inside out job. You have to start
Mhm.
with working on creating positive emotions inside of your system. And the ironic thing is, when you start to do that, I don't know if this has been your experience, but when you start to feel good within, then you start to see and attract those opportunities from without, which
Yeah.
are really in alignment. Because I always talk about how we are climbing at this ladder of success, and you get to the top and you look around and you're like, wait, I got the right college degree, I got the right job, I'm making all the money, but why am I not happy? And it's
Mhm.
because your ladder's up against the wrong building. When you start with like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to work on my mental well-being and on seeing the glass as half full and enjoying my life, and all of the things we can do like gratitude and rewiring our brain, then we start to feel really good, and then we start to realize, oh my god, I'm happy, and it's not about the stuff, it's about that inside out part.
Yeah. And that's so true. So our brain is the strongest pharmacy on planet Earth. We can shift our biochemical makeup within 150 milliseconds by shifting a thought alone. And people don't realize this. Every thought we have, every word we speak carries a vibrational frequency that is going to impact our biochemical makeup. And so I was working with a client the other day, and people tell me all the time, I have SIBO, I have depression, I have this, I have that. So I propose, just to shift the words, I've experienced depression. I experience SIBO. So, like, I experience versus I have,
Mm.
when you say that, the intensity of how it feels in your physical body is different. It's just like if we say the word love versus hate. Hate feels more dense, it feels more heavy. And so when we start to shift our words and how we're thinking, it does change physically what's going on in our body. And Dr. Emoto, he's a Japanese scientist, he really shed the light on how water has consciousness. So what does that mean? They did a study where they took water. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Oh, I've seen it in the beautiful crystal formations. If you speak to the
Yes.
water and you say, I hate you, water, or you say, I
And
love you
it's
to the water.
chaotic.
Yep.
Yeah. Like hate is chaotic. It doesn't have a vibrational frequency of the color that they can see, as they're studying this water. Whereas if you speak kind words of love and light and compassion, the water is vibrating. It freezes in a beautiful crystallized formation. But here's the thing: if your body is mostly made up of water, what do you think every thought and word you speak is doing to yourself? When I started to learn this, it was like, wow. It was so incredible. So then if we take it a step further and, chasing that carrot that we all have done, and we all still find ourselves doing it, I'm sure. It's like, what if we allowed ourselves to feel the feeling before? So what I mean by that is you say, oh, well, once I lose the weight, then I'll feel. Once I get the right relationship, then I'll feel. Once I get that promotion or that job, then I'll feel. Once I retire, then I'll feel. Once we take that trip, then I'll feel. What if you allowed yourself to feel the very thing you think you'll feel when that happens now?
Yeah,
That's,
super powerful thing that you can do. I mean, I'm always telling my
yeah,
clients too to say, I want to do this versus I have to, saying I want to go for a
yeah,
walk instead of I
yes.
have to go for a walk. And it's also, I'm a big heart math practitioner and fan. And
Oh,
it's like,
yes.
yeah, your heart is, amazing because it's pumping all this water, all of this blood, but it's also electromagnetic. So it's a
Hmm.
pump and it's electric. And so they've actually done research where you're in a room if someone's doing heart math. So what heart math is doing is it's bringing your vibrational frequency up a huge
Hmm.
notch because we are energetic beings. Other people in the room can feel that. So we can
Yes.
change our thoughts. We have a thought and that affects us emotionally and then we feel that in our bodies. But by shifting your thought, or like you said, I love that you said, think about, I do that with my clients all the time, like her, because everybody, for some reason, everyone's like, I want weight loss, which is such a
I
not the
know.
thing to focus on
Yeah.
because if from a law of attraction perspective, you're focusing on weight and you're focusing on loss. What is it that you want? Oh, I want the weight
Yeah.
loss because I want to feel this way, or I want to attract this. Well, why don't you start doing those things now? So I love that we have so much more control over
Hmm.
how we feel and how our bodies function. And there's so much research, like you said, Dr. Moto's research, the research of Heart Math Institute has done around your energetic vibration to really to shift you so that you feel really good. And I think midlife is such the time. I know you're sort of entering that menopausal midlife time
Yep.
because I feel like, midlife is just this giant gasoline on the fire. So if you're already struggling with depression, women at midlife have the highest rate of depression for any group for our age and gender. You're struggling with that. You're struggling with maybe empty nest or teenagers, aging parents, financial issues, work, all of these things. And then you throw the hormonal disruption on and you're like, okay, I got to make a
Yeah.
shift here. So I think it's really the time to take control of your, I would say control of your thoughts. I wonder how you phrase that. It's not so much that I have control, when I tell people to have control of your thoughts, but just become, you are not your thoughts. Like you said, you can
Hmm.
unstick, not saying I am a diabetic, but I am experiencing these issues with my blood
Yeah.
sugar, puts you in the driver's seat instead of saying, I am this and not defining yourself. But how do you get women to start, or all of your clients to start to be more of the observer, to realize, okay, this is personality having this experience, but then I can be the observer and I can decide what thoughts are true and I want to really amplify and what thoughts I want to be like, clouds in the sky and let them
Hmm.
go. What techniques do you help people with?
So there's a very good question to ask yourself. What if this wasn't true? So if you ask yourself the emotion that you're feeling, the experience you're having, what you're making it mean, because everything we make it mean something. You ask yourself, what if this wasn't true? What would be possible then?
Mm,
And so then what that does to the brain is it takes you from this limbic emotional brain to the prefrontal cortex, to which is more of your executive function thinking. So now we've taken ourselves out of that emotional brain that we can go to a lot, especially when our hormones are not balanced. And it's forcing you to use that prefrontal cortex. So that I think is a really powerful question for all of us to ask ourselves. What if this wasn't true?
yeah, I love
And
that.
and the whole, the midlife thing, it's a real thing. They talk about midlife crisis, and I think that often, we talked about the weight loss. I think often what happens is our goals and the things that we're achieving in our life, especially in our earlier years, were never our goals. They were never the achievements that we truly wanted. I think they were things that were put on us. So, like when I did my undergrad, I was going to school and I was doing exercise science. I was going to be a physical therapist, or I was like, oh, I'll be a teacher. And then when I realized that teachers and physical therapists, where I was going to school in that state, they made about the same amount of money. I'm like, well, I'll just be a teacher because then I could get, 3 months off a year. And my dad kept telling me teaching is the easiest job in America. You get like little hours, you have to work, you get the summers off. And so he was just dripping that on me when really I wanted to be a doctor ever since I was a little girl. And then it was like, oh, well, you have to pay for college yourself, and college is expensive. And so my goal that I originally had dreamed of in my mind as a little girl started to just go dissipate to the background. And so then the goals and the achievements I was sitting there achieving were never mine. They were somebody else's. So I think when we get to midlife, we're sitting here saying, huh, I feel uneasy inside.
Mm.
What's happening? What do I really want? I don't want these bad relationships. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to show up to a job that I'm not enjoying every day. I want to make a difference. I want to do something with meaning. And then it's having the courage to step into that. Because for me, at 40 years old, I left a six-figure income, a secure job, all the benefits, check all the boxes. And I'm like, I am doing this thing with my business, and I am going to rock my midlife, and I am going to step in to the person I knew I was supposed to be 20 years ago. Right. But our lives couldn't have happened any other way than how they've happened this far. And I needed all those experience to get to where I'm at now in my midlife to help people in the way that I do. And so I think it's really taking that inventory of, what if this wasn't true? And then are these my goals? Is this what I truly want in my life? Or is this something that has been projected on me by society, by our family, or whatnot? And it's not right or wrong. It's just the way we wound up being in it all. And so we get to choose to look at it and shift the lens in which we're seeing things, and then we get the power of choice, which is the best thing about being human is we have the power of choice, which can
Yeah.
help us or hinder us.
I love that. And I'm always telling people in my book, Rock Your Midlife, the first chapter is authenticity. And it's all about, go back and think about what was the
Yes.
first thing you wanted to be as a kid.
Mhm.
And for me, it was dancing and it was kind of some kind of performing. I'm a Leo rising, so I'm always wanting to sort of be out and inspiring and being a writer. And so looking at like, what was that first spark? So I love that you said that you really pivoted and thinking about what did I always really want to be and getting rid of also, I think the people pleaser is a big issue for midlife
Mhm.
women. If this resonates with
Yeah.
you, put something in the comments box if you're
Yeah.
listening on YouTube or Facebook. But we think that also pleasing other people is going to make us happy. And it
Mhm.
doesn't. We have to really please ourselves. And two other things I love for people to do is they ask yourself, what's the best thing that could happen? Like if I do this thing and you're worrying about it, or you're sort of second guessing yourself. And then if you make a mistake and you catch yourself criticizing yourself, just tell yourself, I'm only human. You're like, if
Mhm.
you fail, if you make a mistake and the self-critic is out there saying, oh my God, why is this happening? Or why did I do this? Just say, yeah, because you're only human. Like when I got breast
Yeah.
cancer, it was like, you're only human. Like people get sick, things happen. So
Mhm.
there's so many things that you can do to rewire your brain. But it really, I think, starts with developing awareness and also the empowerment that you can choose what you want to, walk around thinking about all day. I mean, we have like, what is it, 60,000 thoughts a day, and some are
Yep.
positive, some are negative, some are neutral. But what happens is the brain's kind of just a dumb computer. So it will repeat the same thing over and over again. And we get in these rumination loops. I live in Vermont, so it's like we're like cows chewing our cuds. And our brain thinks that if I think this thing over long enough, I'll solve it. What ends up happening is it just gets us more and more stuck. So I love
Mhm.
what you shared, that you really work on changing your thinking. So let's talk about how can you explain the concept of rewiring wellness and how it relates to transforming brain health? Because, I think your perspective is let's start with the brain and transforming our brains and seeing how does that impact all of our holistic well-being?
Yeah, so it's really starting to just shift the lens in which you see the world. And so, like, for example, if you look at eating a salad, we have these things called neuroassociations. So, if you pay attention to all the neuroassociations you've connected to wellness, and we have different, like, there's different parts of wellness. So, there's fitness and wellness, there's nutrition and wellness, there's financial wellness. And so if you look at all of these areas, so we'll take nutritional wellness. If you have a neuroassociation that being on a diet is associated with restriction and lack, and I'm always hungry, and salads are just like I don't even want a salad, but I have to eat this. You're never going to successfully have a good relationship with food. because you have that neuroassociation, versus if you shift your neuroassociation and you focus on all the things you get to eat, all the things you choose to eat, because what you're doing is you're focusing on all the things you can't eat, right? So often you feel deprived. When you focus on all the things you can eat, you're like, oh, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, melon, cantaloupe, all these things. When you just look at fruits, right? There's thousands of things you could choose to eat and you get to eat that are going to nourish your body. But yet we're focusing on, oh, I can't have that pizza. And then the other thing is, if we look at how the body works, when we think of digestion, because I never think we should be on a diet. I think if you play with food, just look at it as a science experiment. Again, we shift the way we're viewing it and we're thinking of it. But really, like, if you're going to eat something that is, say, maybe it's not the healthiest thing, right? Maybe I'm going to have some pizza and I'm going to have a piece of pizza and enjoy it and love it. But the problem is when we start, like, a lot of people think digestion starts when you put food in your mouth. And actually, digestion starts when you start thinking of food. So when you start thinking of food, you're like, I'm hungry. What do I want to have? Oh, yeah, that sounds good. And then your brain says, hey, recruit enzymes, send them to the gut. Ooh, increase saliva. Here we go. We're about to get some food and we got to be ready to, break it apart and give our body those raw materials to do the things it needs to do. And that's a beautiful thing that's going to happen. But often people are like, oh yeah, I'm hungry, but I shouldn't eat because I'm going to gain weight and da, da, da. So the brain's going, wait, do I recruit digestive enzymes? Do I send more saliva? Like, am I going to do this thing or not? So then when you go to eat, you're like putting this food in a chaotic environment and your body's not able to efficiently break it down and do what it needs to do. So we have to start rewiring those neuroassociations that are focused on the negative. So that's like the food example. The movement example, right? Exercise. I like to call it movement. We can call it exercise, whatever it is. But a lot of people have a neuroassociation that if I don't get up and go to a gym, then I'm not getting my workout in. And so it's like this all or nothing mentality. And then some people are like, oh, well, I don't want to join the gym because I'm not in shape yet. Or I don't want to join the gym because I'm too old. I don't want to join the gym because I feel insecure. I don't want to join the gym because I don't know how to use weights. When all you need to do is turn on a song in your kitchen and start dancing, do some push-ups against your counter, and change the neuroassociation of how you're showing up to move your body in this world. Park in the furthest parking spot, take the stairs and not the elevator. Get some 10-pound weights and, watch this podcast and just start doing some things, moving those arms, so again, shifting that neuroassociation. And if we can do that in all the pillars of wellness, we start to transform our entire life. And then in terms of like relational relationships, I always talk to clients too about paying attention to the words that you're using with other people and using I statements and not being scared of sharing how you feel or how you're thinking. I find a lot of women, we tend to hold back, and that throat chakra and that thyroid gets impacted by that because one, maybe we don't feel like we're heard, or we've been told, be seen but not heard,
Right, or be good. I
or
mean,
be good, be a good
we
girl.
we have so much thyroid issues, as
So
women in general.
much.
I've had so many clients who are totally tight because they're
Mhm.
holding everything in and not expressing. I use a lot of nonviolent communication to help people learn how to get their needs met. I love what you said. And I'm always scratching my head and going, how do we get to this place where eating healthy and moving our body was punishment? We think about, eating right,
Yeah,
eating healthy, a whole food plant-based diet. There's no all of these diet companies want to sell you BS. And it's like,
that's
eat
what
more
happened.
plants. Yeah. Well, there's money to be made. And, I mean, I had a
Yeah.
client yesterday who was telling me she was on the shake for a year and she lost weight, but she had to
Oh
buy these
yeah.
crazy shakes for a year, where we
Hmm.
have this association with moving our bodies and eating right is something that I'm doing to punish myself because I haven't been good. And then we starve ourselves and we get on this hamster wheel of emotional eating because, we don't eat all day and we don't do any meal planning.
Yeah.
We're just like, I'm just not going to eat. And then by, 6 o'clock, we get home, we have a glass of wine, which sends our blood sugar soaring, our appetite soaring. Well, actually, blood sugar plummets and appetite goes up. And then we're having a threesome with Ben and Jerry's and watching the Bridgertons. And then we feel guilty and we do it the next day. We're laughing about it, but it's like,
Yeah,
I can't
it's
tell you how
true.
many of my clients, and then food becomes also this emotional thing. But what the cool thing is, if you're listening, is you can change that association. And what I
Mhm.
find so fascinating is this whole field of nutritional psychology, where as you change what you eat, your microbiome, which is the
Mhm.
trillions of cells in their environment, starts to change. And you actually start to crave blueberries. You
Yes.
start to crave all of the good things. And you don't want, I mean, I don't eat crap because it makes me feel like crap, not just
Mhm.
physically, but psychologically. So as you start to replace and look at, yeah, blueberries are delicious. I mean, I eat like a huge
Oh, yeah.
blueberries are the best for you food on the
They are an everyday ingestion in my life.
yeah,
I will eat
absolutely.
blueberries. There might be 10, 15 days out of the whole year where I'm not eating blueberries, a cup of blueberries.
Well, my man just planted 32 blueberry bushes in our backyard, so you got to come visit
That's
us in
so
Vermont.
exciting.
So it is really
Yes.
exciting, but it's so fun. And you like look at kids, and they're
Mhm.
all, they love like blueberries are fun. They're fun color.
Mhm.
They've got all kinds of phytochemicals. So that's a great, practical strategy to really, again, getting into that thinking of questioning what are my thoughts about healthy eating. And I work also with intuitive eating, like burn all the diet books, like throw them all out,
Oh,
throw
yes,
all that
please do that.
and get weight loss off your plate. I always say it's an objective, right? But
Mhm.
don't make it the goal. Make your
Yeah,
goal, eating, just adding more, don't count calories or macros, count how many servings of fruits and vegetables can I get in? How much
that's
water
it.
can I get in?
Yeah, it's the add I call it the add-in method.
Right.
So with my clients, before I'm telling you to cut anything out, we're looking at what one or two things can we add to your daily intake in terms of food, even if it's one celery stick, even if it's an orange, even if it's an apple. So we do that add in. What can we add in? And then that starts to crowd out the other things because most people aren't getting enough fiber, right? And all these foods we're talking about have a higher fiber count. And the average American's getting 15 grams of fiber a day, which is no, I mean, I don't know. I'm
I
sure
think
there's a
it's lower
correlation.
than I don't even know if knew it was that
15?
high. I don't
Yeah,
even
I
know it
think
was that
it's
high.
maybe it's lower, but and then I look at like the rate of colon cancer going up. It's like, oh, like, is there a correlation here? I mean, I can't imagine there's not, and so then it's like increasing the fiber intake, just adding things in is, I think, the best thing that we can do versus really focusing on what we are taking out.
Yeah, it's great ideas to, just take out, well, you can do the substitution. So if you're drinking diet soda, have some water, or even better, have some green tea. Or I was actually
Mhm.
listening the other day on a podcast, they were talking about ribose tea, or was it
Uh-huh.
ribose tea being really red tea, being really incredible for you. Make some sun tea, have fun with it. It's, I feel like being healthy is a joy. And that's like my big 180 was when I found self-compassion and not doing this because you hate your body, but doing these things
Yeah,
because you love your body and you want to feel good.
and
Do
you
you
wanna
find this in your
live.
practice? Women start to blame everything on menopause. And I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
menopause is going to cause some disruption, particularly if you haven't been taking care of yourself because there are estrogen receptors everywhere. But it's
Uh-huh.
not just menopause.
Yeah, it's the years of not taking care of yourself, so it's gonna exacerbate any of those hormonal shifts that are bound to happen. This is aging. And so your body is going to respond in a more loving, gentle way when you're giving your body enough sleep, when you are getting enough sunlight, when you are earthing and grounding yourself, spending time outside, when you are moving your body, when you're having positive conversations, when you're taking time to just write or read or meditate, right? So it's the accumulation. We always look at the one last thing that came along that took us out, right? So it's menopause, it's perimenopause, it's my divorce, it's, losing that job, it's, well, I retired, it's, I just gained 15 pounds. That was never the thing. That was just the last thing that came along that took us out. But it was all those little choices and decisions that you made up to that very point. And so I'm all about let's look at that compound interest of the little things we can add in over time. Is it you wake up in the morning and you drink 16 ounces, 20 ounces of water before your coffee, when for 20 years you've been drinking your coffee first. And then if you want to get wild and crazy, instead of drinking 2 cups of coffee, you drink 1 cup of coffee, and then your second cup is tea. So now you're like drinking water. You cut a little bit back on the coffee. You have 1 cup of coffee, but now you have the tea. And so now you're having even more antioxidants hitting the body and it's shifting things. So it's like, what little habits can we start to add in to create and build off of those? And I think that is a really powerful place to be. And the truth of the matter is, when we were talking about diet and you were talking about all different sorts of diets, there is no good diet. There is no perfect diet for anyone. We're all very different. And so anyone that's trying to sell you the perfect way to eat, I feel like watch out, they're trying to sell you something. And really the best way to eat is this real? Is this coming from the earth? Right? Like, would your great great grandparents recognize it? We don't even realize that, these baby carrots, they are soaked in chlorine. And then I show like kids a real carrot and they're like, a giant carrot. That's a carrot, right? They're so used to seeing these baby carrots, right? So we're very disconnected of real food. And, eating an apple and it may have a little bruise on it or a little nick on it. And yet we like discard it. I went and picked a lemon from one of my lemon trees and I cut it open, and one side of the lemon was really juicy and the other side was like, it was a little bit dried up and, a little brown or whatever. And it's like, it's totally fine, right? I still can use the one side of the lemon, but that would be discarded and thrown out.
Right.
You
Ugly
know,
vegetables are where it's at.
yeah, it's like, we don't do that. Like, it's just crazy, so we have a very skewed perception of what foods we should be eating and what food should look like. And, and then we don't even know where they come from too, which is crazy, so we're just very disconnected from, if you look back even 30, 40 years ago, so it's interesting.
Well, I love Michael Pollan's advice of eat more plants, don't eat anything your grandmother wouldn't have eaten, and eat until you're satisfied rather than stuffed. And the beautiful thing about
Yeah.
eating more plants and less processed food is that you get stuffed. It's
Yeah.
interesting when you look at the satiety of a processed food versus a whole food. If you eat a
Hmm.
salad, like I made zoodles the other day, zoodles with chickpea pasta, great, super high in protein, super high in fiber, delicious, beautiful. But I can only eat so much of it, because you get full both from the stretching of your gut as well as the hormonal changes. But when you eat a processed food, what happens is you just want more and more because they
Hmm.
are diabolically designed to hijack your dopamine reward system so that, whether
Yeah.
it's sugar, fat, salt, but the cool thing is, like we talked about your microbiome changing, your taste buds will change. So if you're listening, you just say, you know what, I'm going to cut back on the salt. I'm going to cut back on the sugar. I'm going to cut back on the processed food. All of a sudden, you will realize after a couple of weeks that your taste buds will get used to it. They've done some
Hmm.
cool research where people cut back on sodium, and then they give them canned soup, and they prefer the lower sodium after they've actually worked on cutting back on all of
Mm.
that. So we just were not designed, to eat cheese puffs.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
and so all of these things have a huge rise in our blood sugar and are creating havoc. And so I love that you're bringing us back to our roots. And if you're listening, you don't need to do it all at once. Like you said, you can just
Right.
substitute one or two things, but like with the goal of just creating a healthier, happier you, and
Hmm.
not this
Hmm.
goal of weight loss. Because what I always find, and I hate these, 6-week Beachbody BS programs where it's like the goal is to like look like this influencer. And that influencer is really has been working out for years, and that's their
Yeah.
job. And you don't need to look like that to be healthy, and that shouldn't even be the goal. But the goal.
Hmm.
So looking at sustainable changes, and I wanted to also just touch base on, James Clear's Atomic Habits, because that's really what you're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about here of just
Yeah.
a 1-2%. Like if you have an airplane and the airplane changes its course by 1-2%, it's going to be in a completely different city. So if you
Hmm.
decide, like you said, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to go really crazy. I'm going to have a glass of water. I'm going to put a little lemon juice in it. And then I'm going to have 1 cup of coffee, because there's nothing wrong with coffee. It's got antioxidants, no
Hmm.
problem with it. I'm going to have organic coffee because coffee has a lot of pesticide usage. And then I'm going to, have some green tea instead. That's a
Hmm.
huge change.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the dosage too. You're right. Coffee is not a horrible thing, but when you're having 3, 4, 5 cups of it, it becomes something completely different. And so I think that that's the other thing is, if you want to have a little bit of ice cream, okay, let's buy the ice cream that is cream and sugar, you know, and not buy the ice cream that has 50,000 ingredients and then, having a small cup versus a big old bowl, right? It's the dosage as well as the ingredients that we really just need to pay attention to. And will our body recognize it?
Right. Right. No, I live in
Be
Vermont, so it's Ben and Jerry's. So it's like, Ben,
Yeah.
a small kitty-sized Ben and Jerry's is it's the first bite and the last bite that really you enjoy the most. And
Mm,
so, and
that's true.
like we'll
Yeah.
bike to the creamy station, the other day we did a 30-mile bike ride and it was so good. And my body was
Mhm.
just like, yeah, give me some calories. So I love that no food is off limits, but really changing your perspective. So any last minute words of wisdom? You've shared so many incredible ways to think about our health and our well-being. Any last ideas about kind of integrating these brain practices to live a more healthy, holistic life?
I think just being mindful of, you know, what you're thinking. Is this true? And then also getting yourself the help that you need because we can't know it all. And through different stages of our life, things are going to shift. So, for those women who are entering that perimenopause, menopause stage, the food you're eating and the exercises you were doing when you were, in your early 40s or your 30s or even your 20s, it's going to look very different. And so I think that that is one of the things is we need to not compare ourselves to who we used to be or how we used to do things. We need to step into ourselves anew every day and say, okay, what do I get to choose today that's going to enhance the vitality and the health in my life? And I may need some help here. And so who can I go to that can support me on this journey? Right? And getting professionals also that have been through it or are going through it. And of course, obviously with what I do, have a holistic approach to it because it's never one thing. There's no one way to lose all the weight. There's no one way to make all the money. There's no one way, to make it to the top, right? So there's all these different ways that we can approach life, and how you're going to do it is going to be very different than somebody else. But having that cheerleader in your corner, having that person in your corner to support you and discover the journey and the way you're going to go about it can be really helpful, because there are times when, it's you missed your period and your estrogen's tanking and you're like, I literally feel so depressed right now. And what can you do? You can step outside, get some sunlight to hit your skin. You can pick up the phone, you call a friend, you walk around the block, put your bare feet in the grass, turn on a good song, play with your dogs or your animals. Like, so we get to hack ourselves in these experiences and in these moments. And so it's just building that tool, that arsenal of what we can do. But if we haven't done it before, that's where getting someone to help us learn about these tools, learn about how to do it, can be really helpful. Because once we have that knowledge, once we know, no one can ever take your knowledge from you, and it will carry with you for the rest of your life. So education is just so important, and it's not, oh yeah, textbook education or you got to go to a school. It's like it's this, right? Like I'm learning things about you right now and you're teaching me, I'm teaching you, we're teaching other people. And so it's gathering that information, and once we know, we can do better.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, every day is an opportunity to start anew, and menopause is
Mhm.
an opportunity to change things. And we change. I mean, our brain changes so much. We get kind of selfish. It's amazing that the brain actually creates estrogen receptors as estrogen goes down. And I love that you said, if you're having a bad day, bring in that calming humanity. Ask yourself mindfully, what is it that I need right now? I always tell
Mhm.
people, make a list of all the ways that you care for yourself or you'd like to care for yourself. Maybe that's just like going to a bookstore and browsing and walking around,
Yes,
or
I
as you
love
said,
that.
hugging. For me, sometimes it's just taking a friggin' nap.
Yeah.
And having the
Yeah.
perspective that just because right now it feels like things are really tough doesn't mean my whole life is a mess, that I'm just having
Yeah.
a muddy day. So I love that. And
Mhm.
I love that, ask for help. And so where can people find you? Do you work with people virtually or are you working just out in Bakersfield? If people want
Yeah,
to
we
work with
work
you.
yeah, I work with people virtually. Happywholeyou.com is our website. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. Instagram, there's the at Happy Whole You, our brick and mortar, and then dr.anna.marie is my personal Instagram page. So yeah, I mean, in this day and age, you can find us anywhere.
Yeah, well, I will definitely look you up. I'm sure you're offering all kinds of really great tidbits. I've learned so much from you and you just have such a
Uh,
beautiful energy about it. I mean, I think the bottom line for me too is it's about energy management. So it's not about
mhm,
weight management, even health management. It's about energy management. If you don't feel as good as you would like to, look up Anna Marie, look up me. There are so many coaches out there, but also be judicious because there are people who have a lot of training, a lot of skill, a lot of experience. And then there are people who are just selling the beach body BS. And
mhm.
really, if somebody is selling you something that sounds too good to be true and is telling you about a very specific diet, as Anna Marie was saying, or a specific body type that you can achieve. And if it doesn't feel good, like it doesn't feel good to eat 1,200 calories and go to the gym for 2 hours a day and do these exercises and listen to your body. Your body is incredibly wise. So, Anne Marie, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah,
It's been
thank
such a
you.
delight. And thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much for listening. You can reach out to me at themidlifewhisperer.com. That's themidlifewhisperer.com. And you can reach out to Dr. Anna Marie at Happy Whole You if you want to work with her and really get some of her deep, deep wisdom and I think compassion. Please do reach out. And again, thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next episode of Rock Your Midlife. Welcome to the Rock Your Midlife podcast, your transformative sanctuary designed to guide you through self-discovery and provide the tools you need to find your purpose and navigate life authentically. Whether you want to optimize your health, boost your happiness, or deepen your self-love, this podcast is your ultimate toolkit.